Hello and welcome to the ICX Academy. Now we will be talking about tracking. But first of all, let's have a look at our goals. So at the end of this session, you should understand what tracking is, and you should also understand the different channels of tracking. But firstly, what is tracking? So tracking describes the process of checking and ensuring that your members do their to-dos and fulfill their commitments and responsibilities. It is an essential part of the responsibilities of a team leader, as you are the final responsible for your team members and their commitments and performance. So tracking is kind of just the way to ensure that your members live up to their responsibilities. I think it's maybe the most difficult part of being a team leader, because on the one hand you want to make sure that your members do their tasks, but on the other hand you also want to give them trust and don't appear as a control freak. Therefore, it requires a lot of balance and also a lot of normally experience and empathy to see what is the best way of tracking your members. But this is also why we are having this course here. So to give you some key facts, there are different channels and ways of tracking, which is very important. And maybe the most important part of this whole course is the specific way of tracking depends highly on the individual member. So therefore, there are lots of different ways to track members, also maybe more intense, maybe not so intense. And for this, I would also highly recommend you to ask at the beginning of your experience with your members. So for example, during your goal setting talk, to ask them what is the best way or what is the way they would like to be tracked. Some persons need a lot of tracking, just as a reminder. Some other persons hate being tracked, and therefore it's necessary to only, or it's sufficient to track them only on their goals. Just ask your members, and during your team leader experience, you will also develop a sensing for what member needs what. Just as a general rule of thumb, if you only set goals with your members and only track your members on their goals, and if they don't achieve their goals, then they need closer tracking. So as a general rule, if your members don't perform, they need more tracking. This is not the case for everything. You should of course ask them why they are not performing, but in general, if your members don't achieve their goals and don't perform, then they need more tracking. And thirdly, it should be done subtle so that you don't appear as control freak without trust. So don't ask them, did you do this, did you do that, did you do this, and so on, but make it more subtle, ask open questions, and also approach your members with a general attitude of trust. So, but why is this topic actually relevant? First of all, tracking gives you an overview about the goals and commitments of your members. So if you track your members, you will see what they are doing right now and what they are contributing to. It also ensures that all tasks are done and goals are achieved, because if you don't track it and if you don't measure it, you will never know if everything was done and the goals were achieved. It also senses your members if they need support. So if they don't do their tasks, you should always ask them why and how they are doing, because normally, yeah, also based on the general human belief that people are good and that you should trust them, is if they don't do their tasks, there's something wrong, and then they normally need some kind of support, maybe just a conversation about the to-dos themselves, but maybe also if they need support, for example, in terms of time management. And it of course creates accountability, because what happens sometimes is if people are not tracked, then they also don't do their task because they know that they won't be held accountable for this. Therefore, tracking members also gives them a sense of accountability and increases the chances of actually doing their tasks. What channels can you use? So there are lots of channels, and as I said at the very beginning, you need to find the right way for each member individually. So for some members, some channels are great, for others they may not, and therefore also here use the channels in a very targeted and tailored way. Probably the best and mostly used channel are team meetings. So during team meetings you can talk about goal achievements and fulfillment of commitments to kind of track your members what is going on, and also to create a cadence of accountability. Then of course individual check-ins. This is maybe the most crucial tracking channel, so that in your individual check-ins or one-on-ones you can ask them about their commitments and see how they are doing with them. HubSpot is extremely important to track your members, and you should always, while having your, for example, check-ins or during team meetings, have HubSpot open to also see if everything is documented there, because HubSpot gives you an extremely great overview about the current state of your pipelines and about the current state of your area. Same counts for Expa. If you have an open opportunity and would like to track the progress of it, but it's not as detailed as HubSpot, and especially for sales and reception, HubSpot is more useful. If you have one, you can also use your team tool to track the to-dos of your members. And lastly, and also very important, right, just normal conversations online and offline. So if you meet your members on the campus, for example, you can have a quick conversation with them. You can also have Slack or WhatsApp conversations about the to-dos and how's everything going on. And here again, make it as subtle as possible. So don't ask them directly if they have done their to-dos, but for example, if they need more support or how is it going, to just make sure that they don't feel that they are constantly tracked in a very strict and rigid way, but that you're just offering support and that you are just generally interested in how is everything going. Because in fact, that's also what you want to have. You don't want to have a not trustful atmosphere, but just a very supportive environment, and that your members have the feeling that they can always come to you if they face difficulties. Some general tips and points of attention. Have a tailored approach. Don't track everyone in the same way. So this is really extremely important to have an individualized tracking system for every member. Ask them how they want to be tracked and then just try it out if it works. In general, if your members don't perform and don't achieve their goals or do their tasks, they normally need more tracking and more support. Like I already said it a couple of times, this is very important, because otherwise it creates not a very positive atmosphere and environment, and nobody will enjoy working in this atmosphere. Use HubSpot and Expa. It's extremely important, and if everything is documented on HubSpot, it's extremely beneficial for you and for the whole team to keep an overview and also to track the pipeline and conversion rates. And treat not doing tasks as a warning sign. So if you see that your members are not fulfilling their tasks and commitments, you should be very careful, and some red alarms should go on to just ask them what's going on. Maybe some personal difficulties, something else is going on in their lives. Maybe they have an important paper to submit, or there are just other personal difficulties, maybe time management. So always treat this as a sign that there is something deeper than just the ICX work. And this is then also your responsibility as a team leader to support your members in this way, also on a personal level, because relationship comes always first, and always try to support them in their personal things and then in their ICX race. Yes, this is it already regarding the art of tracking. It sounds very easy, but in practice it's not that easy. But you will get used to it, and you will also develop your own way of tracking and also your own individualized approach to each member. And of course, also ask your members regularly how the tracking is working for them or what they would like to change. And with this, thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, please contact your Arrows NST.